Hello, welcome to Banjo Cider. I'm Patty.
And I'm Tony.
And we're Banjo Cider, the owners of Banjo Cider. We started this project really in 2018, making a commercial scale of cider. We had made it before for ourselves. And the genesis of it is really both agriculture. We've always done agricultural endeavors on this property. We used to have thousands of asparagus plants back where the trees are now. And we also have these old apple trees that we have near the house, and they were always producing apples that are just falling to the ground. And Tony was kind of like, why don't we make cider? And that was sort of the start of the whole thing.
So both Patty and I, we had careers before cider making, and we're both environmental engineers. Most of our work is in Northern Canada, but our roots are here in Ontario, and we really wanted to capitalize on that through the cider making project.
When we came from Yellowknife, we picked Uxbridge. We had lived up a little bit north of here before, and we picked it because we knew it was a great place to live.
So people often ask us why we're called Banjo Cider, and the origins of that is really that both Patty and I at the same time started new hobbies. I started cider making as a hobbyist, and then Patty at the same time started learning banjo. So hence the origin of the name Banjo Cider.
It's also a bit of a nod to the time when cider would have been super popular around here. We live on a really old farm property, so the buildings would have been built in the mid 1850s, the oldest ones. So we'll show you some of our products over here.
Talking about our products, this is our most recent product. It's called Citizen Cider, and it was made from apples that were picked last year. And the interesting part here is that the apples came from all over Uxbridge Township. It was a bumper year for apples, and we noticed apples falling on the ground everywhere, and we put a call out to the community and said, bring us your apples, we'll press them, and we'll turn them into a citizens-based cider.
All the apples that came from it are unsprayed apples, and also, as Tony was saying, these were often apples that would have just kind of fallen to the ground and gone neglected. So in a time where we're just getting all our food from all over the world, we were pretty excited to do a project where we kind of harnessed the community's efforts and got apples that were super local and unsprayed and made a nice sustainable product.
So before we look at the actual production process that we have, we'll talk a little bit about the styles of cider that we produce.
Generally, we use a traditional cider making method, so that means that it's a very long kind of ferment and aging process. The ciders are unfiltered, and that long process gives out more flavor and makes it smoother. So, and then we also make ciders on the drier side, so they're not the more sweeter ciders that some of the commercial cideries make. We have, starting from a bone dry cider, our number 2 is called Revival. And it's kind of like a champagne, that kind of crisp, dry, refreshing sort of cider. And then on the sweeter end of things, we have our Rouge, which is one of our more popular ones. It's fermented with cherry juice as well. And then we add a touch of local maple syrup, and it's just a sparkling, refreshing cider. In a similar kind of sweetness is Dueling Banjos, and that's got crab apple in it as well, fermented crab apple. And then in between, we have the Citizen Cider, which is from the apples that the community pressed. And we also have our Doppelganger, which is dry hopped, and it's got buckwheat honey for maltiness, so it's a little bit more like a beer for the beer lover.
So what we're working on in the production area today is we're bottling a large batch of what we call Doppelganger. It's our dry hopped cider. It's in this tank right here. It's being carbonated, and it's ready to go to our bottler, which is over here. And this is our bottling line that we use to take the cider from the large tank into the bottles and then ultimately to our customers. So one of the really neat things about cider making is that oftentimes the cider makers try to take all the credit, but in reality it's the yeast that do all the heavy lifting in a cider making process. The job of the cider maker is really to create the conditions for the yeast to flourish, and the yeast are what convert apple juice to apple cider. So it's all about managing that process, giving them the perfect environment to create the cider.
Let's go have a look at the orchard.
So our orchard is quite young. Most of the trees that you see behind us here are only 2 or 3 years old. They'll start to produce within a year or two. But before then, what we've done is that although some of the trees did produce fruit this last year, we picked all the fruit off so that the tree could start to produce wood instead. That's really what we're trying to do in these early years of the orchard, is to have the tree develop a good structure, get as big as it can, and then in the future we'll be harvesting apples.
Another example of a cider apple tree that we have out here is the Kingston Black. So it's kind of a well-known amongst traditional cider makers variety that could actually stand on its own sometimes as a single varietal. So we're pretty excited when that tree will start producing next year or the year after. Welcome to our patio where you can relax under our big old silver maple trees. You can try all of our ciders here. We have a flight that allows you to try all of the ciders, and right now with Citizen Cider just having been released, because we're a year from when the community collected all those apples, that's been really popular on our patio. So you can come, you can bring your dogs, bring a blanket in this nice fall weather. We often have live music. You can bring food from Uxbridge. We have a lot of fine restaurants in there and a nice cheese shop, and you can bring food and have it here on our patio while you taste the cider. And then when you're done, you can head over to our bottle shop and pick up some cider to take home. Thanks for coming out to Banjo Cider. We'll see you all soon.